to actually start today, I've mentioned we've had a lot of interviews scheduled, and we have another one today. It's become our tradition to make sure we have all of the local coaches of championship-winning teams, and we've got another one here today. Bear River Girls Lacrosse. Now, we had them on last year because of an absolutely fantastic season, 17-1, won a championship. They were back-to-back. But, well, head coach Jeremy Webb, you're here again today. 3 straight titles, a 56-1 record over the last 3 years, 20-0 this year, second undefeated season in 3 years. Jeremy, it's good to have you back on.
It's great to be back.
Yeah,
it's becoming old hat having you.
I hope I keep making it back every year.
That's great. Yeah. If the secret is having you come in to have a repeat performance of a championship, then let's just keep having you in.
That's right.
Yeah, we've had one other coach have a repeat year since we've kind of been doing this. And there's another there's a Ridgeline team. We had a Ridgeline coach on Friday, so let's think another Ridgeline team. But yeah, so absolutely fantastic season. I kind of want to start at the beginning talking about this season because you go back to back. Like, that's an accomplishment in and of itself.
Yeah, it is.
So how do you approach yet another season where it's like, it feels like complacency is like at an all-time risk for teams, at least from a theoretical standpoint, to be complacent. Like, we won 2 titles, we're going to come in and do that. But how do you guys avoid it? Clearly avoid it, because you guys not only won another title, but you went 20-0. There's obviously no skipping of cutting of corners here.
Yeah, so like if you remember last year when we were talking, I said, hey, we had lost, I think it was 8 players from the previous year, and then last year we lost another 8 or 10 girls, can't remember the exact number. And so coming in, we knew we were going to have a totally different type of team, and I knew we were going to have a totally different type of team, and so I just kind of like try to make them play the style of game that is conducive for them. As a coach, I'm very, like I told you last year, defensive-minded first and foremost. But our offense was going to look different. I knew that coming in. And my focus was to find the way that they play, and let's just build upon that. And I think that was the big key to the success. And I had done an interview earlier in the season when they were talking to me they were talking about how we were going to take our lumps this year. And I said, I don't know about that. And I said that because the secret to success just in any sport I've ever been a part of hasn't always necessarily been 1 or 2 players. It's always been the whole group will dictate whether or not we have success. And yeah, we had some amazing players and that had high scores, high points, high assists. But as a whole, our whole team did their part to help us secure another state title, 3-peat.
So what is it about your whole group, your program, all these teams? Like, what is it about them that's made them champions 3 years running now?
I know this is cliche, but really, truthfully, it starts with team culture. It really does. And I try to explain that to people, and they were like, oh, fine, you don't want to tell us. No, but it's really what it is. We, number one, start with team culture. These are the expectations that I have for you girls. At parent night, this is literally what I say. These are the things that we expect you to do. Parents, now these are the things you get to do. And if you can't do that, then maybe lacrosse isn't for you. And it's kind of funny because when parents come in for the first time into our program, they're like looking around like, did he just say that? But it's the truth. And once you set up your expectations, they meet them. And as a whole, our group plays harder for one another than I've seen a lot of other sports I've been a part of because they all buy into the process. And so I think that's part of it.
Coach, your team, going undefeated, winning a state championship, it's an incredible run. But in the way that you did it, you were the highest scoring team. You scored more goals than anybody else, and you allowed fewer goals than anybody else. So when you played, your team was dominant on both sides. So walk us through that aspect of, is it just getting back to that root of team culture and total buy-in?
I really do believe that that's what it is. And I think starting with the base of, we start with the defense and we build from there, it really helps. And at the end of the day, I always tell my defense so that they don't get down when we do get scored on. it's okay. Like, we're going to get scored on. Good teams are going to score on us. If we keep teams under 10 points, I believe our offense is good enough that we'll win games. And so going into every game, that's our focus. So you don't really see girls get their heads down when someone scores on us, because we know we've got room for working with points that are given. But at the same token, they play fearlessly because they get to have the opportunity to do things that a lot of teams are playing to not make mistakes. My girls are playing out there to be successful, try to win. It's the idea of when you start playing not to lose, you tend to lose. So we play to win at all times. It doesn't matter what the score is. And I make adjustments on the rotations so that it doesn't look like we're trying to blow teams out, because that's not the result that we're trying to get. What we're trying to get is girls play hard on every possession for 48 minutes of a game.
So kind of speaking of undefeated seasons, I mean, we had Ridgeline boys soccer head coach on here last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
They took a couple of losses early. He talked about how, it's almost good to lose early because you learn things. But when you go undefeated, and there's a bunch of people who have quotes about, you learn from you lose. But when you don't lose, how do you guys end up learning to the point where, you never do lose? How do you find those learning opportunities?
So the learning opportunities come, I think, from watching film. Because when girls start to see some of the things that they could have done better, and I think that's another focus that I do, instead of saying, hey, you did this horrible, we talk about how can we make our game even better. So I'm always trying to approach it from a positive perspective. But when they go watch their film study, and we do that as a team, we try to do that once or twice a week, they can kind of visualize themselves like they thought they played a great game, and they're like, whoa, I could have done that, and it would have made me more successful here. And I think that's a big part of it, is you learn from losing, but you also learn from your little imperfections throughout the games. And if you actually take the time to look at that and not just watch a team play and try to figure out how to beat that team, well, don't worry about how to beat a team. Focus on how you can make your game better. That's kind of the approach we go with.
Bear River head coach Jeremy Webb joining us here in studio. Bear River girls lacrosse, 20-0 this season and winning the state title in 4A. And your team was dominant through for the region play, just tore through your competition. When you got to the state tournament, games got closer and closer. And that championship game, it was kind of tight in some places. Yeah. So how were the girls reacting when they're in a game that's tight, where most of the games this season, honestly, were not really that close?
Honestly, I was pretty impressed. The fact we went down 2 early, and I think we was down 3-1 before we finally called timeout and started talking about it. And we're like, what are we doing out there? And I let the captains take over, and it's like, hey, captains, what can we do better? Because I know what I'm thinking, but I wanted their perspective. And I kind of just let the captains dictate what we did on that particular drive, and then we went on a 7-2 run and took the lead and never looked back.
So is that just kind of another staple of a team like this, where there's a lot of player leadership in addition to obviously the leadership that you bring as a coach?
Yeah, well, I usually only like 2 or 3 captains, but this year I think we ended up having 8, which is crazy because I'm not a big believer of everyone's a captain. No. But it really was one of those years where it was conducive to have that many, because every one of those girls brought something to the table, and every one of those girls was a reason that we were so successful. Whether it was grabbing a girl that had made a mistake on a play and like, hey, shake it off, we're good, we got this. Or pulling someone at practice and said, hey, this is what I used to do to get ready for a game, or to fix that shot from going wide. And every one of those girls was a big part of why we were successful this year.
When you go through games where you're so dominant, like you were through region play, does that give you a chance to insert younger or more inexperienced players to give them time to real reps against other competition?
Absolutely.
Is that part of what's building here with Bear River's success?
It absolutely is. And they get varsity time when it really, I hate to say it when it doesn't matter, because it does matter, but they get varsity time with girls that are playing at a high level, so I can insert them, and then they can learn and rotate with girls that actually know what they're doing, and they will help them along the way. So yeah, absolutely.
Just kind of progressive development. You're always developing while you're winning some of these games. So I want to ask about it. I asked you about this before the show. You mentioned the record over the last 3 years, 56-1. And I guess how well do you remember that one loss as kind of that minor stain on what are otherwise 3 very, very good seasons?
You know, it was the Corner Canyon last year. We dropped a 7-5 game, and really our defense played out of the mind. My girls all played really good in that game, and it goes back to that idea. We keep a team under 10. We should be winning games. But and you know, I hate to make excuses. We had a few girls that were some of our leading scorers out in that game. So one of my focuses is my greedy, selfish self. I wanted to play them again this year, and I knew it would be tough because we lost a big portion of our girls to I want to say retirement, but you know, graduating.
They ran out of eligibility.
They ran out of some eligibility, so I knew it would be tough. But you know what? I think you've got to play a big time schedule if you're going to be a big time team, and so we challenge a lot of 5 and 6A teams in our preseason games, and in teams that I feel like should be powerhouses. And we ended up winning that game pretty handily this year, and it was a testament to those girls working hard.
19-8, the final score.
Yeah.
That's it. It's pretty handily.
Yeah.
You guys traveled on the road. Is that just a function of, I guess
Well, first of all, it's cold up here, and who knows if we're gonna have snow? So I schedule away games early on.
Nobody wants to come up here in like early March when there might still be snow on the ground.
Funny thing is, we were laughing about it earlier in the season, but we haven't lost an away game, and I didn't realize that. We've only lost at home, which is crazy because most teams are home.
Yeah, they're better at home.
Better at home, but like our one loss in 3 years came at home.
We've talked to championship coaches and asked them about development and setting a standard at the youth leagues, like winning a championship, having certainly a run of success like you've had. What kind of signal does that send to the younger kids that are interested in the sport or getting into it and get those early years, recognizing that, hey, if I keep at this, I'm going to play on a team that's going to go and win a lot of games, maybe even put a championship trophy around my neck?
Yeah, you would never guarantee a championship at any level. But truthfully, it's funny you asked that. We were talking about that before the show. My wife and I, when we started this little run, I have a daughter who's an 8th grader who will be playing with us next year. But when she told me she wanted to play lacrosse in high school, we started that youth program 6 years ago. And we finally turned it over last year to the Edwards family, who's done a phenomenal job. But I literally try to go out of my way to help our Little League program as a head coach. And like this year, I helped coach the 7th and 8th grade team. Just happened my daughter was on it, so it was more of an incentive. But they ended up actually playing for the championship against Jackson Hole and almost won that one. So it was pretty cool. But it's very important to start out a youth program if you're going to have success. Continued success.
So how do you feel like the sport here in the Valley, because this is a very young sport in the Valley. There are some club teams that predated it being a sanctioned sport, but I mean, how do you feel like the sport overall is doing as far as both youth programs in the Valley and at Bear River, and also just obviously Region 11 as a whole? You guys are obviously doing fine. But
I can't really speak for Cache Valley. Because I really don't know their exact numbers in the age levels. But what I can speak for, at least from Bear River's perspective, is when we started it was a struggle to get girls to play. Because let's be honest, Tremonton is a softball territory, right? Let's call it what it is. It's just what it is, right? So, yes. And they've got some phenomenal teams, and that's awesome. But over the last few years, our numbers have grown and grown and grown, and it's just getting bigger. And that's a testament to, number one, the girls are having a good time. Number two, they're inviting their friends. Number three, winning breeds breeding is what I've always told people. Like, when you start winning, people want to be a part of that. So I think that's part of it too.
We have seen, and I know this perhaps more for the boys' side, that lacrosse is a good cross-training sport to play for those who play football in the fall. And it tends to collect athletes from other sports to give them some physical activity in the spring. But is that the same situation for girls lacrosse? It's a very different skill set.
Absolutely, though.
Where girls are competing in other sports at different times of the year, and this is really an ideal sport to keep them active?
I really believe so, especially in a small school like we have. I love the multi-sport athletes because at least number one, even if they can't make it to my open gyms, I know that they're doing something, right? Soccer plays a big factor in it because like you're learning your angles and your cuts and your stamina's getting there. Basketball, I love basketball players. They know how to like box out, do a good job for us. When we have an 8 meters, kind of like the same thing as the key, so like it really helps. And anytime I can get a wrestler, I'll take a wrestler because I know they know true grit, And so I believe every sport can translate over into lacrosse. It's just taking a good perspective and having a positive attitude when you come in. You'll be successful in our program.
So let me ask you a dangerous question. Maybe there's an obvious answer.
No, just kidding.
So I just happened to glance on Max Preps, and they have their rankings. I think they're computer generated. I don't know if they're super in depth, but they rank you as the 6th best team in the state of Utah in girls lacrosse. One, do you know who the 5 above you are? I can name them, but I want to ask if you think you would beat all 5 of them. Because
Park City and Olympus would be really good games.
Yeah, they're 1 and 2.
I think we'd split. I think with them. I also think I haven't looked at it in a while, but I believe Mountain Ridge is above us.
Yeah, they're at 4.
This year, I think we'd have beat them.
Then you got Fremont at 3, Riverton.
We beat them last year, 18-2.
Fremont.
Mm.
Okay, see, you probably have them. Yeah. So yeah, those are the 5 teams. You think you'd have at least a pretty good game, if not beating all of them?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I figured.
Yes,
I'd hear.
Absolutely. It's a dangerous question, but you know what? At the end of the day, I'm the kind of coach, and I tell my girls this all the time. I'm going to visualize what our goals are, and that's the expectation at this point. Because I know, I've had a lot of coaches over the years. They don't like those dangerous questions. But I'm and I don't know if it's the military coming out in me, but when you have a goal that you need to reach, that you want to reach so bad, that if it ain't scaring you, it ain't big enough. And so I'm okay to say, hey, this is our goal. Let's go after it. Let's go get it. And that's the expectation. And once we make a goal, that's the expectation. We're going for it.
You've talked a lot about the player leadership that has helped continue the culture and the success that you've built. But we know that in talking to a lot of different coaches, there's also assistant coaches, there's parents involved, there's a whole support system around that. What has that been like for you in the Bear River Valley?
It's kind of funny you asked that question because I think it was last year someone asked me, how did you get the coaching staff that you have, right? Because none of them really have played lacrosse in a sense, but every one of my coaches does something for our team that is invaluable without them. And I owe a lot of gratitude and success to them as well. Coach Webb gets a lot of the credit, but it's all the coaches that go along that helps us along the way, so that helps us be successful. So
I'll kind of ask one final question, just so you told me you're starting another couple of weeks, basically when your prep starts for next season.
Yeah.
I guess is it same approach as always? Do you utter the words for Pete at any time in the near future?
I'm still enjoying this one, so I haven't got my ring yet. But at the end of the day, we'll let the girls decide what their goals are, and then that will be our expectation. But we will start. I tend to believe if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we had to rebuild the last 2-3 years. We're gonna rebuild again, so it'll be fine. It's the Bear River way.
Some pretty good rebuilding years.
Yeah.
You guys have had.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Well, Coach, congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome run of success. Outside of the previous years, just what you did this year, undefeated, run through the state championship, and bringing home another state title to Bear River. Awesome achievement and accomplishment, so congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you so much.
All right, and thank you again for coming on, and I guess we'll look forward to next year.
Yes, let's do it.
Schedule it now.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a break. We'll be back after this here on the Full Court Press.